I accidentally heard my girlfriend insulting me, and it was worse than I expected. I am 33 years old, and my girlfriend, Jenna, is 28. We have been together for a little over 2 years now. Never in my life did I think I would overhear my own girlfriend ripping me to shreds in a conversation with her best friend. But it happened. And when I say she tore into me, I mean it was brutal. I work as a veterinarian. That is how we met. Jenna had just moved to the city and brought her dog to my clinic for an ear infection. What should have been a short routine visit somehow turned into an hour-long conversation. We hit it off right away, and I was hooked. Before Jenna, I was living like a typical bachelor. I was not against settling down, but I had started to believe I might just stay single forever. The casual dating scene had become repetitive, unfulfilling. Jenna is the kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone wants to be her friend. She's charming, outgoing, and always surrounded by people. One of those people is Dylan, her best friend from back home. I have always trusted Jenna, but I would be lying if I said her friendship with him did not make me uncomfortable sometimes. She assured me they had never been anything more than friends, and I believed her. I never made an issue of it, never acted jealous, never tried to come between them. I even tried to get along with Dylan whenever he visited, but I could tell he was not my biggest fan. Jenna brushed it off, saying he was just protective. To me, it seemed more like he did not want me around at all. This past spring, Jenna finished graduate school. Finding a job afterward turned out to be harder than she expected. We had already been living together for a year, and I understood that money was tight for her. She was not able to contribute financially, and that was fine. I was doing well enough for the both of us. That being said, I wanted to be careful. The last thing I wanted was for her to become too dependent on me. I never pressured her, but I made it clear that once she landed a job, I expected her to pitch in for rent and expenses. On Monday, she sent me a message at work. She had finally gotten hired. It was a position she had been working hard to get, going through multiple rounds of tough interviews. I was beyond proud of her. So proud, in fact, that I decided to leave work early and surprise her. I handed things off to my staff and headed out without telling her. On the way home, I picked up a few things I knew she would love: her favorite bottle of alcohol, some Chinese takeout, and a bouquet of flowers. There was also a necklace she had admired at a shop a while back. Nothing too fancy, but it had a shark charm on it, and Jenna is absolutely obsessed with sharks. I had already bought it and hidden it in the basement, planning to give it to her as a surprise later on. This seemed like the perfect time. I got home and entered through the basement door so I could grab the necklace before going upstairs. As I reached the top of the basement steps, I heard Jenna talking on the phone. Normally, I would have just walked in, but she was laughing, really laughing, the kind of deep, uncontrollable laughter that makes you smile just hearing it. I decided to wait a moment and let her finish before surprising her. She was talking to Dylan. No surprise there, they talked regularly. But then, as I stood there, I started to understand what they were laughing about. It took me a moment to piece it together. She was making fun of me, not just any joke. She was mocking me about something deeply personal, our sex life. She laughed as she compared me to her ex-boyfriend, saying he had several inches on me. Then she made some joke about eating baby carrots around me, saying it must be humiliating for me to watch since they are the same size as me. She kept going, saying my body was great, so long as I kept my underwear on. Dylan, of course, thought this was hilarious. It is hard to put into words how that moment felt. I cannot move. I cannot breathe. Look, I do not care what people on the internet think about size. I never felt insecure about it. But what made it worse was that she was lying. I mean, sure, I do not know how I compare to her ex, but I am normal. Nothing ridiculous, nothing tiny, just average. And I have never been self-conscious about it. Until now. And did not stop there. She went on to make fun of me for being, in her words, gorgeous, but not exactly smart. That part almost made me laugh. I am highly educated, and intelligence has never been something I worried about. But hearing her mock me like that, especially to him, it hit me harder than I could have imagined. I did not stay to hear more. I left. Did I throw the flowers out the car window? Yes. Did I sit in a parking lot and cry? Yes. I think she must have heard the basement door close, or maybe saw my car pulling away, because not long after, she started texting me, asking when I was coming home. That was on Monday. I have not confronted her about it yet. I did not even know where to start. It is humiliating. It is painful. But more than anything, it is confusing. I love this woman. I was planning to propose in a few months. Now, I do not know if I can even look at her the same way. I know I need to talk to her. I just did not know how. I never thought I would be in this position. Heartbroken, humiliated, and questioning everything I believed about the woman I loved. But here I am. My girlfriend, Jenna, made fun of me behind my back. Not just a casual joke. No, this was cruel, cutting, and deeply personal. And she was laughing about it with Dylan, her best friend. I had been planning to propose in the coming months. Now, I do not even know how I could look her in the eye. I asked for advice, but deep down, I already knew what I had to do. That same night, I met up with 3 of my closest friends, told them everything, and got exactly the response I expected. Get out now. Their words only confirmed what I was already thinking. Then I called my mother. I told her everything, no matter how humiliating it was to say out loud. My mom and I have always been close, but I had never heard her this furious. She already knew I had bought a ring for Jenna. I think hearing the full story just made it worse for her. I knew I had to break up with Jenna, but I also knew it had to be done the right way. No anger, no yelling, no pointless back and forth. I did not want to give her the chance to twist the story into something else, to make it sound like I was the one in the wrong. So I took the advice of my friends, my mom, my brother, and even some of you. I decided to talk to her in a private place, but still somewhere public enough that things could not escalate. I thought about just packing up her things and telling her it was over with no explanation. But after 2 years together, I felt like I needed to see her face when I told her. So I asked her to meet me at a quiet wine bar downtown. It has small booths with half curtains, enough for privacy without being completely alone. Since Monday, she had been acting incredibly sweet. Overly sweet, actually. She was either feeling guilty, worried that I had overheard her conversation, or completely oblivious to why I had been acting distant. Maybe all 3. She dressed up nicely that night, and despite everything, I could not deny that she looked beautiful. She was affectionate, constantly touching my arm, making little flirtatious comments about how she had plans for us later. Normally, that would have made me feel lucky, but this time, it just made me feel sick. I had played this conversation over and over in my head. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, and as soon as we sat down and got our drinks, I went straight into it. I told her how much I had loved her, how she was the only woman I had ever truly opened up to, the only one I had trusted completely. I told her that she was the only woman I had ever thought about marrying. I left out the part about the ring. I told her I had even imagined having children with her. She kept interrupting me, telling me how much she loved me, trying to reach for my hand. And then I looked her in the eye and asked as clearly as I could, if you love me so much, then why did you say those things about me to Dylan? The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She tried to play dumb at first. She acted completely clueless, insisting she had no idea what I was talking about. She said, Dylan knows how much I love you. I would never make fun of you to him. I just looked at her. I did not say anything for a moment, just let the silence sit between us. Then I said, come on, Jenna. She kept denying it. Even after I told her I had come home early that day and heard everything with my own ears. It was frustrating, but I refused to lose my temper. I just told her flat out, I knew she was lying. I told her the things she said were cruel and that I could not understand why she would say them, especially to Dylan. What made it worse was that she was not even telling the truth. She was lying just to mock me. But still, she denied it. She said she loved me, that she was happy with me, that she would never complain about me or my body. She even went on about how smart I was, how sweet I was, how much she adored me. If I had not heard her say those things with my own ears, I might have believed her. She should have been an actress. Some people asked if I was sure she had been talking about me when she compared me to her ex-boyfriend. I am sure. She said my name when she made the comparison. There was no doubt about it. I told her we were going home, and she needed to pack her essentials. Her clothes, her toiletries, and her dog. My brother and his girlfriend would be there to make sure things went smoothly. I did not want to deal with any more lies. She sat there, staring at me in disbelief. It was like she had not even considered that I would actually leave her over this. She begged me to stay, but my mind was made up. She started crying, saying she had always pictured a future with me, that she wanted to be the mother of my children. It was hard not to break down in front of her, but I had to keep it together. I own my home, and Jenna had never contributed to rent or utilities. I was not going to sugarcoat it. She had to leave. She asked where she was supposed to go, what she was supposed to do. I told her that was not my problem anymore. She had plenty of friends she could stay with. Everything in that house was mine. The furniture, the decor, she had never paid for any of it. The only things she needed to take were her personal belongings. Then came the real tears. She sobbed, asking how I could do this to her, saying she thought I was a nice guy. Over and over, she said, "I thought you were a nice guy." I looked at her and said, "I'm a nice guy. That is why I did not just throw your things outside, change the locks, and never give you an explanation." At that moment, I could see something shift in her expression. She was realizing, finally, that I was serious, and she did not like it. At that moment, I thought I had already heard the worst of it, but she still had more damage to do. Jenna finally admitted to making those comments to Dylan, but instead of apologizing or trying to explain herself, she just made it worse. She looked at me and said, "I don't know why I said those things." And then, after a pause, she added, "Maybe it's because Dylan brings out the best in me. I can joke about things with him that would normally make me cry." I stared at her, trying to process that. Brings out the best in her? She was at her best when she was making fun of me behind my back? I told her flatly, "If that is what you consider your best, then I really feel sorry for you." I usually try to be the bigger person, but in that moment, I had had enough. I told her she should go back to her hometown and move in with Dylan or her supposedly well-endowed ex-boyfriend. That was the moment her tears dried up. Just like that, she switched from playing the devastated girlfriend to pure rage. Suddenly I was a terrible person, a joke of a man, someone who did not know how to treat women, a complete loser, pathetic and inadequate, destined to be alone forever. Oh, and apparently, she never actually loved me. She just stayed with me out of pity. Sure, that makes perfect sense. Then she threw in a final dagger. I would have said no if you had proposed. That one hit different, not because I wanted her back, but because I'd been so close to making a massive mistake. Then, as if I had not heard the first time, she repeated her earlier insult. "By the way, I meant it when I said your size is like a baby carrot." That was it. I had nothing left to say. I looked her in the eye and said, "I would rather die alone than be with a woman who is cruel and does not respect me." She lost it. No words. Just a full-on scream. Not crying. Not yelling. Just a long, unhinged, ear-piercing scream right in the middle of the restaurant. I did not react. I just sat there, watching as she completely fell apart. Then, just as suddenly, she bolted out of the restaurant, but not before calling me a disgusting pig. I took a deep breath, paid the bill, apologized to the waiter, and walked outside. And there she was, just standing on the sidewalk, crying. I knew she had done something awful. I knew the things she had said were unforgivable. But for a split second, I still felt something close to pity. Not for her, for the fact that I had spent over 2 years believing she was someone she was not. It was cold out, and as much as I wanted nothing more to do with her, I could not leave her standing there. I told her I would give her a ride home so she could pack up her things, but that she had to leave as soon as she was done. She agreed, got in the car, and we drove in silence. Easily the longest car ride of my life. When we arrived, my brother and his wife were already waiting. His wife stayed inside while Jenna packed, and my brother waited with me outside. She gathered some of her things and called a friend to come pick her up. Before she left, I got my house key back from her. That should have been the end of it, but it was just the beginning. That night, she bombarded me with texts. They started off sad, then turned apologetic, then became angry, then downright hostile. I did not respond. By the next morning, I only sent her one text. "Your stuff is packed and on the porch. Pick it up while I am at work." I heard nothing from her all day. Then, right before I was about to leave work, my phone lit up. She had sent me a message filled with some of the most hateful things I have ever read, wishing every possible misfortune on me. I ignored it. Then I got home, and my house. It looked like a crime scene. She had destroyed everything. I did not know if she had made a spare key at some point or if she knew how to pick locks, but she got inside, and she went wild. She smashed things that could never be replaced. She tore up my furniture. She clogged 2 sinks and left the water running. She threw food everywhere and left the refrigerator door open. The only decent thing she did was lock my dogs in a bedroom so they would not get hurt. Then I remembered. I had given her a key to my SUV a long time ago, in case of emergencies. I went outside. Sure enough, she had trashed my car too. Flour dumped everywhere. Tomato soup poured across the seats. I stood there for a long time, just looking at the mess. It was not about the stuff. It was the fact that she did this. That she was so filled with anger that she had to destroy everything on her way out. A week ago, we had gone to a play together, hung out with friends, made up a drinking game for Monopoly. We had spent the weekend on the couch watching movies. Now my house was wrecked. My car was trashed, and so was I. It is unbelievable how fast things can change. I will admit, I had a moment of weakness. I was furious, and I did something petty. I went on an instant grocery delivery app and ordered 25-pound bags of baby carrots. Addressed them to her. 100 pounds total. They arrived within an hour. I got a flurry of insults from her that night. Was it immature? Sure. Do I regret it? Only because it was a waste of food. Hopefully, she donates them or eats them. But I doubt it. That was the last straw. I blocked her. I am exhausted. I have cried more in the last few days than I have in years. But it is obvious I made the right choice. Jenna is not emotionally stable. She is not the person I thought she was. She is cruel, and I deserve better. Since that night, I have spent a lot of time reflecting, trying to figure out if I had done something to cause her resentment, trying to see if I could have done anything differently. Here is the truth. I work a lot. That is the reality of being a veterinarian. I always try to make time for the people I love, but sometimes work followed me home. Sometimes I had patients I had to check on. Sometimes I was up all night. I know that was frustrating for her. We fought about it before. I try to make changes, but some things I cannot change. My staff is great, but at the end of the day, I am the one responsible. There were definitely times when Jenna felt like she was not my top priority, and now I know she resented me for it. But here's what I also know. That does not excuse what she did, and I did not deserve it. I did my best to adjust, to be the partner she needed, but there is only so much a person can change. Looking back, I cannot think of a single time I was intentionally cruel to Jenna. Sure, I had my off days. Sometimes I was exhausted, sometimes I was distracted, and sometimes I was just in a bad mood. But that is part of life, part of being in a long-term relationship. We had arguments like any couple, but nothing extreme. Nothing that ever made me doubt us. I truly believed we were solid. I believed we were happy. I know I was. And yet, after everything, I find myself questioning. Did I fail her in some way? Did I make her feel unimportant? Did I neglect her to the point that she felt justified in doing what she did? I do not have the answers to those questions. Maybe I never will. But I do know this. No matter what was going on in her head, no matter what she might have felt, the way she put me down, the way she humiliated me and then reacted to the breakup was completely unacceptable. I did not deserve that, and that is on her. So, to everyone who has supported me, thank you. The messages, the advice, the encouragement, I appreciate it more than I can say. It is time for me to move forward, time for me to heal. And one day, I know I will find someone who actually values and respects me, someone who sees me for who I am and does not feel the need to tear me down for laughs. Summary: I ended things with Jenna on Thursday night. It did not go well. She lashed out, trashed my home and my car, and left me emotionally wrecked. But I did what needed to be done. It is over. I have blocked her on everything, phone, social media, everywhere. Also, yes, I sent her 100 pounds of baby carrots in a moment of spite. Not my proudest moment. Final update: I filed a police report and documented the damage with photos. Will anything come of it? Probably not. I cannot prove she did it. Same with taking her to small claims court. Not worth the effort. At this point, I would rather never have to deal with her again. I'm going to let insurance handle what they can, take the loss, and move on with my life. I will be okay. It might take some time, but I know I will be okay.